Okay, hang on a second. Technical difficulties. All right, so my name is Opal Alapat, and I'm, of course, with Interrel Consulting. I'm an Oracle Cloud ACE Director, and I am certified in narrative reporting. I'm also the one and only author of the book on narrative reporting. So I'm very excited about reporting topics, very excited to discuss this with you all. All right, so I have my own set of polls, and for those of you who have been participating all along, just note that this is going to be a different poll everywhere account. So for this one, you're going to text using your smartphone. The way to get into my poll is to text the word Opal Alapat 196 to 22333. And then once you get the message that you have joined, you can choose either A for yes or B for no. And the question is, have you ever been asked to write variance commentary regarding your company's financials? Ooh, no. Usually I get 100% yes on this one. All right, let's leave it up for just a little bit more to see what we get. Oh, a little bit more yeses than no. All right, let's keep going. So as you may have seen on Edward's webcast this morning, I thought it was a very interesting slide, especially as we talk about how in the world to tell our story of data. A return to pre-virus levels of economic uncertainty will have to wait until a lasting solution to the pandemic, likely in the form of a vaccine, is found. And this is from the Harvard Business Review, and I think we all understand and can appreciate where we are right now with this economic uncertainty. And everyone, of course, talking about the economic recession and the stocks tumbling and, doom and gloom. Of course, that's not where we're trying to go. But that means that we have a need to tell a data story. And so the one thing that I'm going to make sure everybody understands is because of this, your budget and forecasts are going to be off, which means that you need to turn to a reporting solution that is going to allow you to maximize your investment by telling that data story. So let's go right into it. What exactly is narrative, and why do we care about that? And what I will say is that narrative / variance commentary / commentary, depending on how you talk about it, is often required when financial goals aren't met. If you've ever seen this before somewhere on a website, it's usually a text commentary. It could be in the form of paragraphs. It could be in the form of a couple of comments. And what it does is it gives context to the data. And there is an art to it. Usually people just start off by summarizing their data and just indicating that, oh, well, revenue is down, and that's it. But the art of narrative will show you that for good narrative, it doesn't just inform you, it also cuts through the data details. It summarizes the data so you don't have to wade through all those numbers, and it allows you to communicate very quickly the information so that you don't have your end users or management members wading through pictures and numbers trying to figure out what the data is telling them. Often, there are numbers of reasons why people will use narrative, usually to anticipate future risk. So for instance, we have economic uncertainty right now. What does that mean for the future? A lot of us don't really know, but that's something that if your company has already analyzed the situation, created your scenario models, then you can anticipate future risk and tell that story. Commenting on why something unexpected happened. Of course, this black swan event that we're all going through. Communicating key past decisions, which I'll show an example of that soon. Explaining the future vision and direction, which a lot of us are going to need right now. Relaying important financial milestones and centralizing important financial notes. And on that last one, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I work with a number of Canadian customers, especially with the narrative reporting tool, and they have a lot of notes to the financial statement that they like to put into their financial statements, and they want to centralize them and number them and then refer to them often throughout their report packages. And just to give you some examples of what narrative looks like in real world cases, and these are straight up from narrative reporting, by the way, from customers that we have. So in this first case scenario, you see that we are looking at the compensation that was given to directors and key management personnel for 2 years in a row. So this is informing, right? In this example called currency risk, what it's talking about is because this company works with multiple currencies, the risk of having that situation and how that could impact their finances. So that's informing, also talking about key financial decisions and things like that. This one is just straight commentary. This one is a negative situation, talking about some safety incidents that happened in the workplace. And so this is communicating why something unexpected happened. And if you read it a little bit further, also explaining a little bit about the vision for the future to mitigate that risk. And here's another one. This one is a summary of important financial decisions. So this talks about the history of significant events. This is for an insurance company. And it talks about a number of key recent decisions that may or may not have impacted their financial story. So in times of uncertainty, generating narrative will become a necessary risk. So I imagine all of you that are watching this today have come to this session because you understand that and you want to have a better way or even a better tool set to generate that narrative. But what I will tell you is that not all reporting tools can handle narrative well. And that's why we've chosen to focus on one specific EPM Cloud tool that handles this beautifully, and it does it even real time. So let's go on to the very next poll, which is, again, so you're going to stay in the same text conversation, but this time you're going to choose A, B, C, D, or E, or F, depending on which answer response resonates with you the best. Which tool do you use today to explain variances to your budget or forecast? A for Smart View, B for financial reporting, C for narrative reporting, D for some type of EPM Cloud, maybe dashboard or Inflets if you wanted to use it visually, maybe some other Oracle tool that I haven't listed, or maybe a non-Oracle tool that's not listed here. Okay, so far we have a lot of folks. That are using Smart View. That is not a surprise, by the way. Okay, I'll leave it open for 10 more seconds. What I find is interesting is almost everybody selects Smart View or a non-Oracle tool that's not listed here. That's what I traditionally see with this survey. Okay, so it looks like most people are using Smart View. All right. So let me give you the landscape of what is available from an Oracle EPM reporting standpoint. If you think about all the different ways that our customers and customers in general use reporting, even in the healthcare industry, this applies to all industries. So static reporting, this is going to be things like your cash flow, balance sheet, income statement. This is a report that someone generates that has an enterprise view, and the end users only consume it and they don't change it, right? So there are a couple of tools that handle this well. We have management reporting, oh, I'm missing one, financial reporting, and Smart View. Then we have, quote, drill reporting, if we go in a clockwise manner here. Drill is in quotes because it could mean different things depending on what the tool means. So this could be a drill through to your transactional layer systems. It could be a drill into another report with more information. It could be a drill into a data integration tool where maybe there's some aggregated data sets. And so there are a number of Oracle EPM tools that handle this, management reporting, FR, even Smart View, if you could even configure it correctly. There's a way to use that with some other legacy tools to get that to work. Then we have the business practice of narrative reporting, which is I am going to add context to my data by adding a narrative around the numbers and charts so that I can tell my story. And this is the tool that we're going to focus on today, as well as some of the other tool sets within the suite of narrative reporting. And that tool is called, of course, narrative reporting. Then we have ad hoc reporting tools like SmartView. And people love SmartView because you can use it with a number of Microsoft Office tool sets. In addition, you can use it with Excel to explore your data, drill down to troubleshoot problems, create beautiful reports, et cetera, et cetera. Then we have dashboards, which is more of a visual way of using Oracle EPM reporting. So these within the EPM cloud stack could exist within your planning and FCC dashboards. It's an actual tool that you can use. There's also something called infolets, which are little visualizations that you can sprinkle throughout your EPM cloud product stack. And then finally, we have statutory reporting. And this is, by the way, everything that's in green is within the narrative reporting suite, which I will talk about in a bit. So one of the tools that handles statutory reporting and regulatory filing is disclosure management. And I will cover that as well as a demo soon. So if you've never heard of narrative reporting, let's get right into it and talk about what is this tool suite and what can I do with it. So this is actually an entire suite of products. And the reason why it's a little bit confusing is because one of the tools within the suite is also called narrative reporting. So I'll try to be very clear when I'm talking about the tool or the suite. So there's three tools. There's narrative reporting, there's management reporting, and there's disclosure management. Narrative reporting has an object called report packages. That is the one that is focused on the business practice of giving context to your data through narration. Then there's management reporting, which is going to be more like Hyperion financial reporting if you've never seen that before. So that's creating highly formatted reports, and it will eventually replace FR if you use that technology. It uses a lot of cloud data sources. And then there's disclosure management, which I just mentioned, which is more of a statutory, regulatory filing reporting technology that is mostly used on the consolidation side. And we'll go into each one of them. But why is narrative reporting important? So why am I talking about this? Well, clearly the subject is real-time analytics with narrative reporting. But narrative reporting is critical to the Oracle EPM cloud stack because it is the strategic direction of reporting for Oracle. So I've already mentioned it's going to eventually replace FR. Don't worry, SmartView is totally safe. That has a completely different reporting function. This is not meant to take over all of the reporting tools, but complement them by providing reporting tools that are focused on a particular business requirement and excel at that business requirement. So in the case of the narrative reporting suite, it's a cloud solution. It could be used standalone, meaning you don't have to have EPM if you don't want to. The narrative reporting tool actually works with pretty much anything. It gives a lot of different solutions for the different types of reporting needs that customers might have. And pieces of it actually have full workflow and allow you to have full transparency to the report development cycle, as well as process management, due dates, owners, and things like that. So it's a really strategic suite of products that exists within the EPM cloud stack. All right, so let's do, I think this is the second to last poll, which is curious to know if anyone has ever even heard of narrative reporting, because this is the last session, by the way. So for those of you who have managed to stay along the way, curious if you've never heard of it before, maybe you've heard of it, maybe you've seen a demo, maybe you've actually used the product and you want to know how to get more out of it, but I'm kind of curious as to who exactly is in here and what is your experience with this tool. Okay, so it looks like okay, so no one's used it, but it looks like a good, well-rounded view of kind of heard of it, maybe seen a demo, or really have not heard of it at all. Okay. So let's talk about how to use each one of the tool sets within the entire suite to accomplish some type of narrative or commentary. So the first tool that I want to focus on is the actual tool called narrative reporting, which again is focused on the business practice of giving context to your data. And I'll explain that with visuals and a demo soon. So the object here is called report packages. And what that means is if you've ever been to a company's website, let's say a public company, where they may have posted like their financial statement or their annual statement, that's an example of a report package. So it tells, it's like a little book that tells the entire story, usually an annual book or a quarterly book, of what's happened in the time period covered. And it usually uses a lot of visual aids like photographs, also has a lot of text narrative as well as charts and graphs and all sorts of cool stuff. So there are reasons why some people may use Oracle for it. There are reasons why people may not use Oracle for it. I've kind of seen a whole gamut of use cases for this. So the reason why this tool is really cool is that not only does it provide that business function for you, but in addition, it gives you full transparency to the report development process. So from definition to distribution of your report package, it can manage that entire life cycle, and it gives you transparency of where your developers are all along the way. If you're curious about what are these supported data sources, so another tool set that we're going to talk about next, management reporting, can be imported into this, so you can integrate the two reporting technologies. And then basically the other data source is anything you can get into Excel. And I'm not kidding. So if you have Oracle add-ins, great. If you have non-Oracle add-ins, also great. Basically any way that you can get it into Excel, it uses something called named ranges behind the scenes. You can get it into your report package. So this can leverage your existing investments in reporting. If you have smart view grids, you can import them directly into here. If you have other types of report books, there's even a way to get them into this product. I've mentioned the workflow. For those of you who might be curious about, well, what does the format look like? How do you create this thing? So it can use PowerPoint, Word, or PDF. And so if you think about something like a board package, usually done in PowerPoint, where you have a lot of pretty graphs and financial things, you could actually build that within this narrative reporting tool set within a report package. And it does have a lot of cool, this tool's been around since the beginning, basically. And so this has had a lot of innovation over the years that it's been out, and there's quite a few awesome features for maintenance, including variables. So some of the pros and cons, what I would say, just in case you're kind of weighing this against some of the other tools in the tool set, or even other technologies, maybe even outside of Oracle, or things like SmartView and FR, is, this is the tool that's built for narrative reporting. This is it, and it does it very well. It is pretty powerful. If you're used to developing reports within your organization, what I would say is that you may not be used to a product like this, so there will be a small learning curve, because you're essentially creating a package of reports and you're putting all of this narration around it, and you're managing the entire workflow of it. Great formatting options. You can print out, because it's Word, PowerPoint, or PDF, you can print all of your report packages out. You can secure pieces of this as well. And the underlying data sources are secured through pass-through security. You can use variables for maintenance. There's a direct connection to the underlying data source. That's really important here. As we think about the concept of real-time analytics, we have to ask ourselves, well, is this like a screenshot that we pasted in here? No, it isn't. It's actually a direct connect to the underlying data source. And you can refresh it, as you need to, so that you can refresh these objects so you don't have to recreate them all the time. Centralized maintenance, storage in the cloud, storage through report packages. Some of the cons, though, if you compare this to some of the other existing Oracle EPM technologies that may handle different types of, variance commentary. So you can't have really attachments. That concept doesn't really make sense here. If you think about using like financial consolidations or planning and forecasting tools, you might be able to, in a form like insert an attachment or something like that. That's not really what this is meant to do, because this is a reporting tool. So attachments, you would just really put the attachment content directly into the report package. In addition, there is no direct tie to the data intersection that you're commenting on. So if you look at the screenshot here to the right, you see that there's a grid, and that's showing a very specific slice of data. The art of narrative in this case is to create context to those numbers, but the context that you create in text form is not directly tied to that intersection of numbers. There are other tools within the suite that handle that, and I will talk about it. In addition, the developers that you select to work on these report packages, it doesn't necessarily say, well, Eric is the one who entered this narrative, because the idea is this is a public consuming report package or internal management, and so it doesn't necessarily matter who wrote the narration. What matters is what it says. So there are other tools, again, that we'll cover in a second that handle that a little bit differently. And here's a quick demonstration to kind of show you what this looks like. So this is, this is a Word-based report package, okay? So I am in Word, I have what we call a little doclet. I've imported my grids and charts, now I'm writing narration around it. And what I'm gonna show you is I'm going to put narration into the underlying Word doclet for my report package. I'll highlight it so it's very obvious. Then what I'm going to do is, because I'm working locally on my version, I'm going to upload it to the cloud so it syncs to the narrative reporting technology. And then from the cloud, I can actually see the results and real time of what I created. So it's been checked in. I'm going to go look at a preview of the entire report package. If I navigate to where I was working on that one little section, there it is. You can see my narrative. And then those data sets are also going to be attached to a data source underneath. So that is your real-time data with the narrative attached to it. All right, so that was the first tool set, which again is really built upon this concept. The second tool set is called management reporting. And this is a technology where you're going to create static reports, kind of like Hyperion Financial Reporting or even in SmartView. And from the standpoint of commentary and narrative, it does also allow end users to comment directly on those reports to give context to that data. So this again is a static reporting technology. It's pretty intuitive. You can see a screenshot of it right there on the top left-hand side where you see a just standard report, right? I think this is an income statement. And so this is going to be really a cloud technology. Your supported data sources are going to be EPM Cloud, ERP Cloud, like Fusion Cloud, and any version of Essbase, technically, even all the new ones. This is built upon a forward-looking platform. That's why it's going to replace a tool like Hyperion Financial Reporting. It does allow you to bridge together data from multiple types of EPM Cloud applications into a single report. And then there's a lot of really cool report development functions. One of the cool things is if you look on the top right-hand side, you will see a list of charts there. And this has way more charting capabilities, even like waterfall charts and dual y-axis charts and plotter graphs and all sorts of things that it can handle that other technologies and previous legacy Oracle EPM stacks could not handle. Now, some of the pros and cons of this one. So this one is not going to really allow like long narratives. Like you're not going to want to create a report package with this technology. You're going to want to create individual reports. And then the way that users can interact with them is they can enter commentary on those reports. So this is very intuitive though. This is a great tool for end users because it's pretty obvious how to use it. There's a lot of formatting options for the commentary. You can even print the commentary. There is a dimension intersection tied to it. So for instance, in this particular situation, we're looking at actuals and plan for total segments, and it's an income statement. And the commentary that you see on the screen would be tied to a very particular intersection of data. So if I were to change my point of view to a different intersection, I wouldn't see that commentary. This can be entered by end users directly onto the report and secured. And this has a direct connection to the underlying data source. So again, as we talk about real-time analytics and creating context around it, that's exactly the point of this tool. Is I bring up the report, I see the numbers, and then I want to comment on them immediately. Centralized maintenance and storage in the cloud, that's where all the objects exist. But some of the cons are, this is a 1.0 release of the notes feature. So they are thinking about the future direction of where they want to go with this. So right now, the user who entered that commentary is not directly tied to that note. In addition, there's no workflow here. So it's pretty open-ended. Either yes, people can enter commentary, or no, they can't. And then you can secure access to which reports they can enter commentary to or not. There's also, again, like I think a 2,000 character max on each one of these notes. So this is not something where you're going to want to do like an entire annual statement. That's better served in the narrative reporting toolset. There are no variables. You can't access the text functions, at least not in this initial release. But those are things that Oracle is looking at to enhance in the future. And then here is a little video to kind of show you how this works. So I'm going to, as a report developer, I'm going to create a note from scratch. Okay, so I have to create the placeholder for my end users to be able to enter that note into. And here's where I set up the specific dimension intersection for that note. Okay, so I'm just going to tie, let's say, actuals to this. And then I get to choose different settings that I want to. So I'm going to seed some instructions in this note so that users can figure out what they're supposed to do here. And then on the right-hand side in the properties, I can name the note. I can decide what's the maximum size of it, what the data source is that's tied to it. If I want users to be able to edit this note and enter their own commentary or not, I can even do things like change the background color. And I only do this to make it obvious in demos. Normally, we probably wouldn't do that, but I could if I wanted to. And so now that I have my note all set up, it's going to create that note template, which can be centrally maintained, and it will now appear on my report. I'm going to do some tweaking here to make sure that it looks pretty where it shows up on the report. So let me let it make sure it fits within the boundaries of this report. And then when I go to run the report, I can see that that note template is there. And as an end user, I can directly edit it because I've allowed for that and put, different commentary in there by pressing the edit button. And notice that there's a lot of different formatting features here. And I'm going to make this drastically formatted so it's obvious what I'm doing. So I'm going to change the color of it. I'm going to bold it. I'm going to highlight it. And that way, when you see it appear real time, you can see that that's the actual commentary that I've entered. And then finally, we have disclosure management. And disclosure management, just to remind you, is a statutory reporting technology with regulatory filing options. And this looks and feels very similar to narrative reporting. So I'll show you a demo of it, but it's really used more on the consolidation side. So this is for folks who need to do their regulatory filing. So there's XBRL support, Edgarization. It has its own taxonomy designer, which you can download as a SmartView add-in. This has a lot of the same principles as the narrative reporting tool. So if you can get your data into Excel, you can get it into disclosure management. In addition, it has support, formula validation support for SEC, IFRS, XBRL, et cetera, et cetera. And this technology can be integrated with the tax cloud technology to do country by country reporting. So as far as some of the pros and cons, again, I would just say if you're doing internal management reporting or even like board reporting or even like an annual statement or financial statement, this is not really going to be the tool that you're going to use. It's probably going to be a report package or a management report. This one really is more focused on statutory reporting. So it's very powerful. It has its own set of functionality for the consolidation side, so it does require a learning curve. It heavily uses Word, by the way. So there's a lot of native Word options that you can use for formatting. And then, of course, things are printable because it's in Word and or PDF. You can secure it. It, much like narrative reporting, has a direct connection to the underlying data source. So as we think about real-time analytics again, the point here is that I'm not taking screenshots from one place and then putting them into Word. I actually have a direct connection and I can go through a refresh process to refresh that data. There's centralized maintenance and storage through the master document and through the cloud. And some of the cons match the narrative reporting ones, which are, of course, you can't really include attachments. That's not really the type of technology for that. There's no data intersection tied to your narrative like narrative reporting. It's just generic commentary that you're using to tell the story. And the user who enters the narrative is also not necessarily tied directly to that narrative. If you're curious what this tool looks like, so again, you're going to see a lot of overlapping concepts with narrative reporting. This has something called a report manager where I'm going to bring in, again, it's called a doclet, just like it is in narrative reporting. And I'm going to add a couple of those. And then you'll see in my Word doclet here that it looks and feels very much like narrative reporting. I can bring in these doclets. They already have their own charts and grids and narrative attached to them. And then I can even add more narrative around those if I so choose. So we're adding the doclets and then you'll see them appear. And see, now I have whatever was in those doclets, plus I can add my own narrative as well. Okay, and then I can still check in. just like I can with narrative reporting, and give a little comment. So I'm not showing a lot of the other features of the tool. I'm really just focusing on the narrative part of it. Okay, so we're at the end of this presentation, and I hope that to share some key takeaways with you. But before we do that, let's just do one final poll to kind of see, where everybody's at on how you're feeling about narrative reporting. So the question here is, which tool are you most interested in looking into for telling your data story after this webcast? Do you like the narrative reporting tool, the management reporting tool, disclosure management tool, all of them? And they all come with the suite, by the way, especially with Enterprise Cloud. Or no change, you know what? I kind of like using my Smart View and I want to keep doing that, and that's totally fine too. Okay, great. We have some interest. Excellent. All right, so some key takeaways here. Just to tell you again, narrative reporting is a really awesome suite of reporting tools that allow you to fulfill a number of reporting functions while bringing in real-time data so that you can create your story around it. So you have the narrative reporting tool, which focuses on the business practice of narrative reporting. So giving context to your data by adding paragraphs of information and explanations and action plans around your grids and your charts, which you can import from Smart View and management reporting and other tools. You also have the management reporting tool, which is your static reporting technology, where from a narrative standpoint, your end users can directly comment on those reports and you can print those off and do things with them. And then finally, you have the disclosure management technology, which is a statutory and regulatory filing reporting technology, which also has very similar and overlapping narrative options compared to the narrative reporting toolset. But that one's really focused on consolidations and regulatory filing. So I hope this has been very helpful in understanding, how to kind of tell that story, especially in this time of economic uncertainty. And now let's go ahead and open it up for any questions that you might have.